part of the process when you are consuming information is to look for signs that it is credible, signs of its credibility, such as looking at where the claim is coming from, who is the author of the claim, what are the qualifications, no? Kung authority ba talaga yung tao na yun sa certain claim, and using your own independent thinking, do you find the claim plausible given the evidence that were presented to you? In line with looking for evidence to suggest a certain direction, whether we will feel confident or less confident towards a certain claim or towards a certain explanation, we need to develop our skill, or we need to familiarize ourselves with sourcing our information. And one of the primary references that we need get familiar with is by sourcing scientific journal articles. Okay. So first, I will enumerate different. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the common types of scientific journal articles that you might encounter. Okay. So let us start. Okay. So here is the list. We have theoretical research articles, empirical research articles, research methodology articles, review articles, meta-analysis, case studies, and conference proceedings. So I will suggest later where where you can which among the types of the journal articles be considered as your starting point at at anybody's level when they are starting to get to know a certain uh, construct in mind that you wish to explore. Okay, so let's start. So first we have theoretical research articles. Theoretical research articles aim to introduce and discuss abstract ideas and principles with a particular focus on constructs that are formulated to explain, predict, and understand psychological phenomena. Um, you will encounter theoretical research articles that are proposed by its original thinkers, and some of the scholars who are continuing the some modification of the theories, or you will encounter uh, almost the same set of authors that will be cited among empirical articles that you will gather. Okay, so whenever they are testing some theories, it's almost always the case that you will encounter the same authors or the same group of scholars who originated the idea, who supplanted some initial preliminary investigation and formulated the theory. So it's a lot easier to test ideas than to formulate a novel idea. Okay? So again, it is possible that you will encounter more empirical reports compared to theoretical research articles. Okay? So if you already know a specific author with a specific theory, maybe you can start with that. But if not, you will encounter, let's say, one construct, but coming from different perspectives, there are different ways to explain it. So, for example, your construct that you wish to investigate is impulsivity. Let's say in developmental psychology, the way they view it is, let's say, a continuum of milestone where they find that the child gets more matured when they can delay their gratification, or let's say if they can be let's say from an egotistic standpoint to let's say in a continuum that they become more sensitive to other people's needs, um or that they can visualize their needs in the future and therefore incorporate that kind of scenario to their present um, state, present decision making. But in personality in personality science, among the personality researchers, they will say that impulsivity is a trait, is a kind of trait, is a stable trait where um, different individuals vary in this attribute. And in some socio-cognitive theories referring to impulsivity, might focus more on how people may have a tendency to respond to certain stimuli, and given their motives that are social in nature, can influence them to be directed into thinking in a certain manner that is advantageous to them. So those kinds of things, um, same construct but with different ways on how different approaches on how they define it. Think about uh, the parable. Is it a parable? The parable of seven blind men. I can't remember if it were five or seven. So, blind men. So, a blind man in an elephant's trunk described the phenomenon differently from a blind man who is touching the elephant's trunk, the body, uh, and it's also different from the blind man who is touching the elephant's ears, and different from the ones who's touching the tail, and different from ones who's touching the legs. So they are referring to the same thing, but they have a different approach or different means on how they are perceiving. So in that case, they're perceiving it in that way. But in terms of different scholars trying to, or different schools of thought trying to grasp in describing a certain construct or phenomenon, um, they may have different pieces of the puzzle to contribute to explaining such phenomenon. So in different theoretical research articles, for our level, you can at least choose one and test that. So at your level, you're not expected to critique all these theories and come up with some kind of a judgment or discussion which one is the best, because in the literature, other um other types of journal articles can fulfill somehow, can fulfill that goal. Okay, so here's an example of a theoretical research article. So I'm actually working a lot for the past years on dual process theories. So this is a social cognitive theory, but in this article, it is trying to this article is an attempt to cross the bridge between socio-cognitive theoretical perspective and connect it to developmental psychology perspective. Okay. So how does it explain um, the differences in different age group, or how does maturity when it comes to thinking takes place as explained by dual process theories. So that's their attempt. Okay. In most cases, the theories that are proposed have a series of empirical reports from the originator of the theories, because as part of their proposal of a theory, they are presenting preliminary evidence suggesting the existence of such construct. Okay? And therefore, empirical articles are good sources to be uh, to allow the scientists weigh the to weigh the point being raised by the scholar who uh, proposed the theory. So it is difficult to gain confidence to an abstract idea that is too raw without citing some empirical reports that would suggest such theory. Okay, so empirical research articles are the ones that you usually encounter. It is usually testing a hypothesis, and of course it has some background in it. For example, for the background study, it's referring to some definitions of the IV, the justification of the study, and the justification of the relevance of why the question matters, okay? And how can it extend, or where is it, where is it coming from when it comes to what prediction of the theory is it placed, okay? So as a researcher, you need to be aware uh, where in the taxonomy of the literature is your work located. So of course, it has the methods, the results, the interpretation of the findings, and the discussion of possible implications of the findings. For instance, the findings suggest that it agrees, it agrees to the theory. Are we getting more confident about the theory? Or it can also state that the evidence is not supporting or not enough. uh, the data shows that there's null findings, no, and therefore inconclusive, whether it supports or does not support the theory. And lastly, if it has contradicting results, whether the certain direction of the data was not met according to what was once predicted by the theory. So here's an example of an empirical paper. So if you found this article, when you scroll down, it has preliminary investigation with empirical testing on the effect or the correlates of cognitive reflection in decision making. Okay. Next, we have research methodology articles. For this one, when you already peel when you have successfully pinned down your question of interest, your variables of interest, your and you have a clear justification why you are hypothesizing what on their relationship in that manner. The next uh problem that you need to sort is how are you going to measure your variables or manipulate your IV for the experiment. Okay. So how are you going to measure your variables in a way that is accurate, in a way that actually captures what you want to assume that you are measuring in using your instruments. Okay. So the goal in research methodology articles is to verify whether the methodology or the paradigm that we follow is um problematic or ideal in a way. So the authors of a research methodology articles may offer a critique to a certain practice or offer a critique over a certain measurement or manipulation, and perhaps contrast one commonly known practice against the other, and to suggest, of course, which among, let's say, the practices are considered to be ideal or have less issues. So the goal of research methodology articles is to critique our practices, okay, and suggest uh, practices that are considered more rigorous. Okay. So, for example, in different countries, they have this platform called MTurk, Mechanical Turk, and Prolific, where the participants can subscribe to that certain research platform. And it's like a Tinder for researchers and participants. But the participants are the ones who are more powerful on which studies they wish to participate in. Okay. At the same time, if the researchers have a demographic profile target, the website will design the algorithm in a way that uh, the the studies which are targeting certain population will be the ones showing up among the options among the MTurk participant users. So the goal is to conduct an evaluation and to have a suggestion at the end on whether a certain practice is scientifically sound or not, or to raise some questions on the validity of certain measures. Okay, so Yun yung goal ng research methodology articles. So here's an example. So this is about how they find MTurk samples can be a little tricky because, for instance, those who are answering surveys via the MTurk are usually the ones who are not inattentive to the content of the study, that they tend to just skip over if they can, or to just mindlessly respond without variability, or yeah, so there are many different unideal behaviors observed in MTurk that are considered to be uh, not valid, making those data points not valid because in the first place, they really did not, some of them really did not pay enough attention to understand what is being asked of them. Okay? So such mindless responses are considered noises. Okay, let's proceed. Okay. So another one is review articles. Review articles are very important. Okay. For as long as you have your correct keyword on what you want to study, most likely, in most cases, you will encounter review articles or systematic review about a certain field of inquiry that you wish to work on. In most cases, you will encounter review articles, okay? Especially if that's a construct that is not new. Okay? So you will always encounter a review article. So the authors of review articles, by the name implies, conducts literature review, and you can make use of the citations or the references that are clustered together, referring to a specific subtopic that might be of relevance to you. So you can use that as your starting point. Okay, and sometimes when uh, the topic is too popular and a lot of empirical reports have tested it, um saan na ba ako? Um, you can make use of what we call the meta-analysis, or the one which is mentioned in the Vox video the other week, the study of studies. So it is used to analyze the different statistical analysis that were reported in the past, given a certain parameter or narrowed scope of the research question. So the broader the scope of the research question, the bigger the meta-analysis content articles will take. So that's how it works. So it's like a review article but with analysis. Okay. So here's an example of review articles. So I'm interested. This is my area of interest. Okay. So dual process theory, social cognition, judgment, reasoning. Those are my areas of interest. So for meta-analysis, if your query is popular, it's almost always the case that you will encounter meta-analysis. Okay? For example, self-esteem, self-concept, those are very popular constructs that I doubt whether you cannot find anything online. Okay? It's so well known. It has become a public knowledge that um, probably some meta-analysis have already been uh, conducted for it. And usually meta-analysis provide the period in the discussion unless there are some other meta-analysis with the other narrowed scope, okay, that is not captured in yours, okay, or in the other article. Or on the other hand, if let's say the construct has been discussed for several decades, perhaps um, some meta-analysis that were conducted uh, have formulated different themes. Okay? And lastly, okay, last two are less popular but still useful. So for case studies, this is an in-depth report of usually rare cases in the medical field, wherein the scholars wish to learn a lot from such rare case. Okay? Or if not, simply reporting what you found, but I guess what should be there should be an element of intrigue as to why you would write down a specific case study but not others. So of course, it should be meeting some criteria for it to be interesting enough as a case study, right? So for a case study, usually again it is conducted in the medical sciences, because it is possible that some medical ailment may not be consistently found anywhere, and that consulting with other scholars by making your case study out there can be a good, or can already be a good catalyst for collaboration from one hospital to another if they were oriented, for instance, that such collaboration is possible. Or if not, simply stating the details about uh, some details about the patient, and for instance, the tests that were included and its results are the most important contents of the case studies. It's the depth, actually, the depth of understanding because of case studies. Okay. And given enough number of case studies, it is possible that some researcher elsewhere can notice some kind of pattern and develop a theory in order to address a a certain pattern. That's actually within the scope of what tawag dito? That's actually presented in a film about I forgot the title, but it's Robbie Williams portraying the Tisa doctor, and the movie was about L-Dopa, so for Parkinson's. So he discovered a drug that can help different psychiatric patients in the world. Uh, because he noticed that in their institution, the several case studies resemble some kind of pattern. So given the enough number of cases, he was able to formulate some theory behind why common themes of symptoms are shown. Okay. Lastly, we have conference proceedings. This is the among the articles. This is the most I think the freshest. This is the uh, most novel content in terms of its pace, because in conference proceedings again, people can present their paper through conference yearly or biannually, and it's a different challenge from writing the entire article, wherein sometimes it can take a year before uh, the article can be actually published. Okay. So for fast-paced uh, discipline like in the computer sciences, usually conference proceedings are enough for them as an entry point for scholarly publication. Okay. So because in computer studies, uh, the nature of the course of their knowledge is very fast paced. They need to keep up with the changing environment uh, in relation to technology. Okay. And of course, the practices are also evolving. Great. So there you have it. You have theoretical research articles, empirical research articles, research methods articles, review articles, meta-analysis, case studies, and case proceedings, conference proceedings. So what I suggest where you can start with, uh, you should start with review articles and meta-analysis. Okay? You start with a well-written review of literature that can already help you uh, give can already give you a status report of the current hot topics of conversation. Hot conversation in the academy. Okay? So maybe what you are asking right now might already be obsolete in terms of uh, how the scholars have already put a conclusion towards it. Okay? So if that's the case, maybe you're not reading enough, let's say in a messenger, analogous to messenger, your back read update is not yet enough. Okay? So to do that, I want you to first look for review articles and systematic reviews meta-analysis. Okay. Next is uh, you can start also here as first and second, and this one as second. So let's say you found in the review article a certain subsection referring to the link between your target IV and BV, and the rest of the sections are referring now to a different independent variable. So if you are clear with what you want to do, perhaps the ones cited or a cluster of articles cited in the review articles may be useful for you in that you can uh, springboard from that as a starting point. And once you know already what okay, so you brush up on on the definition and what is known, and on the theoretical research articles, you dig deeper to understand um, how the construct is viewed apart from the others, right? And then next is you look at empirical research articles with certain scope, okay? So hindi naman pwedeng lahat ng makita mong empirical articles kukunin mo, no? Hindi ka naman gagawa ng systematic review. All you need to do is to be updated on what others have done, and you want to make sure that you understand well what they did and how they arrived with certain claims. Okay? So dito mahahasa yan sa pagbabasa ng empirical research articles. Okay? But do not absorb it as it is. You can if you have some reservations about how they interpreted it, then you can take note on that. So as part of your note. And then lastly, we have research methodology articles. When you have already pinned down your research question, your hypothesis, you have justified your study in the review of related literature. The next part is when you write your methodology, you might want to understand what your method is about, the one that you will adopt, and whether people are conventional into using that. So, but if it is still under debate, try not to use something really, really new that has not yet been established. Okay. So when they're still arguing on what should be done, so take a step back and go back first to the conventional use, okay, or paradigm at your level, okay? So pwede rin naman sa iba kasi kahit hindi nila fina-follow yung conventional, basta alam nila kung ma-justify nila, no, in a theoretical and technical sense why they are doing so. But at our level, for undergraduate level, we're simply borrowing other people's ideas and test them. Okay, so that's how clear should be when it comes to your goal when you are reading journal. So first, start with review articles and meta-analysis to have some grasp on what has already been concluded, and then you refer to theories that were shown to be the most promising among the many others that were discussed in the past. And lastly, develop your own methodological discernment to critique whether a certain conclusion is considered to be appropriate.